What's going on, everyone? Yes, we are back live on YouTube. This is Drew Code Sports Talk, and I am your host, Andrew Wright. And coming over from Clovis, California, is my co-host, Cody Johnson. Cody.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the live show. We appreciate you guys for joining us. We have got a jam-packed episode for you guys. As you guys can see in the description, we have the show laid out for you guys. Please do not forget to follow us on social media, subscribe to the YouTube channel, our podcast, follow us on TikTok. Drew's going to be dancing on there pretty soon, so you're not going to want to miss that. So without further ado, guys, let's get going.
Take off, I'ma break off from the weak minds, they can stay soft. You can change lives, you create thoughts, never waste time. You got one shot, you got one life, better pop off. What do you like? Make a dream job. No 9-5, no mean boss, just my life and free thoughts.
At the end of that intro, I always want to do the LeBron James. I wish I had powder, but I always forget to bring it because one day I will do it, and I'm going to surprise you, and you're going to be like, that was pretty awesome. But it was pretty awesome.
You know what? We can probably make that happen. What we need to do is we need to record you with baby powder in slow motion, and then you do the whole thing, and I'll put it at the end of it. And then we need it at the end result where it falls on like you and you go, and then we go right into the show. Cause I think that'd be more fitting than, you doing it all fancy and all that stuff.
Wow. Anyway, yes. Welcome guys. Thank you so much for joining us, whether you're watching live or you're not. We do appreciate you watching this either way. So thank you. And when I did this earlier, it's a jam-packed show. Like, it's jam-packed. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So I'm not going to try and teeter around too long. But, I just want to first say go follow us on all of our social media sites. We are on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We have, obviously, the YouTube. We have we're on all the major podcasts, Spotify, Apple, iHeart. So go check us out, subscribe, like. Comment on everything. If we like specifically on the podcast, rate and review. We always want to hear from you. So please and thank you in advance for all of that. So I just wanted to start off by saying that. Cody, I'm going to start off by saying this first. How are you doing, man?
Doing well, man. It's a crazy Thursday, as you know. For some reason, when it's nearly go time, there's always something that's in the way. And so I'm glad that we're able to record. And we got a super exciting show, especially talking about the AFC North, And I know that that's been a fun division we've been talking about recently. And so I'm actually really excited just to dive into a lot of it.
Yes.
But other than that, though, things are going well, man. How's it going on in your neck of the woods?
It's going all right. It's been a busy week for us. This is going to be... It's going to be a busy week this week, and then next week it should kind of slow down just a bit, and then next week, the week after that, is going to be my son's birthday.
Yeah.
So we're planning for that. So that's going to be a whole ordeal. So it's going to get busy again. But anyway, it's my daughter's last day of school tomorrow. Your daughter, well, both of your kids, all three of your kids, have finished. They're all done. For the year. So that's exciting. So, and I know you worked at home today, so that must have been different for you.
Yeah, I did get a thing done today. Yeah, that's for any of those that work remotely that probably have kids that are at home. They're probably dreading the summer because what are you going to do with them?
Yeah,
so
for real. And the reason it's been busy for me, at least, and this is how I want to start off, and I just want to say thank you, Cody, for letting me kind of steal this real quick.
Mm-hmm.
But I just wanted to thank and kind of honor everyone that I have on my list here. So bear with me. First of all, I did want to start off, I wanted to say happy retirement to my mom. She just retired. I know she's been working very hard for this. So congratulations to you, Mom. And I'm so happy that now you only have to look forward to whatever you want to do. So congratulations. Also want to say happy birthday to her. The day that she retired, it also was her birthday. So okay. That was, she planned that out. That was all her. And that was cool. I actually tried to call her at work, ironically, to say happy birthday and happy retirement.
Uh-huh.
And she usually works from it. Well, she used to work at now,
Right.
from like 9:30, or I'm sorry, 9 to 6. And I called her at like, it was like 11. And I called and they were like, oh yeah, she already left. I was like, okay. So I called her on her cell and I was like, hey, they said you left. And she's like, yeah, I'm done. And I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Well,
So
what are they gonna?
congratulations to you.
Yeah. What are they gonna do? Fire her?
Exactly. Yeah. She probably just, I mean, at least she told people.
Yeah.
Then also my oldest sister, Dawn, I wanted to say happy birthday to her. Her birthday was just recent. I won't say the day, but her birthday was just recently. So I just wanted to say happy birthday to her. Big shout out. I had a lot of graduations. First
Yeah.
shout out to my niece, Trinity. She graduated from Central High School. So congratulations to her. Hopefully she will continue what she has been doing. She's very bright and very smart, so I'm sure she'll be very successful at what she does. Also wanted to say happy graduation to my nephew Elric, who actually got into the Fresno State Band on a scholarship. So that'll be really cool. I told him I'm going to try, and Elric, believe me, I am going to try and get season tickets, but I don't have season ticket money, so I either have to get a discount or I'm just gonna have to go to pick and choose certain games. So, but congratulations to him. He worked very hard. He enjoyed school. I mean, he worked very hard at what he did, and he's a tremendous musician. So
Yeah.
I know he'll do great. And then I want to say happy graduation. By the time this comes out, he will already be graduated. My brother-in-law Diego,
Yep.
this kid, is absolutely amazing. I love him to death, and he has been nothing but spectacular to me and my kids.
Mm-hmm.
And he's definitely a workout buddy that I have as well, so that's always nice. When we had to stay over at my in-laws for a little bit, when my house was down and out, we had to get either coffee, dessert, or dinner for him every single time. And you know what? It was nice because we used to do that. Then we moved out, and we had to come, start in there again for a while. And it was like we never left. We just started it up again. So it was kind of funny. And then I want to have a shout out to our daughters. First of all, I'll say yours. Haley, she got an award, which was Outstanding Reader. Mm-hmm. So congratulations to her. That is awesome. And I know you didn't know about it until after she got the award. So
very modest of her. And we found out when she came home. Basically, she got an award. And she had known that she was getting one for a week, didn't tell anybody, and then it came like, oh, I just got something.
Yeah, kids, awesome.
Yeah, no kidding.
So congratulations to her. That's really cool. And I know she'll have fun this summer. And then I wanted to say a shout out to my daughter, Nadia. Mm-hmm. We had an award ceremony the beginning of this week. She got honor roll, which honor roll for her school at least was she had to at least get all A's, and I mean it was no problem for her. She did such a great job. She got a mathematician award and a medal for it, and a medal for the honor roll. And then she got Bronco of the Year at her school for the second year in a row. That's right, 2-time champ. So I just wanted to say, baby, I love you. So proud of you. It sucks that you keep growing up, but I also love it at the same time. I love watching you grow up. So just wanted to have all those shout outs before we even get all this started. So thank you, Cody, for letting me hijack it, but I do appreciate you letting me do that.
No, it's phenomenal. Actually, I saw it on social media. You told me about it, obviously, on Marco Polo. So I feel like a proud uncle. So of course I thought I'd take, responsibility for her being so smart. And, the reading part definitely didn't come from me with my daughter, but I'm very, very, very proud of her. And
here as well.
Yeah. And Diego, I've pretty much since I've been with you, I've seen him basically grow up just like you have. So it's been really cool to see him grow up and stuff. And, been very happy to see him graduate high school. And I think he graduated college already, right? Because he took some courses that kind of.
He got his AA degree. From Reedley College, so he'll also be attending Fresno State as well, so that's really cool.
Yeah, very cool. So shout out to all of them, and I know Elric, he's a friend of the podcast, so very proud of him. And I don't think I've met Trinity, but congratulations to her as well. So I know that you were really busy in the month of May with graduation. It seemed like every other week you had a new one to go to. So
Yeah, there was one week where we had, I think, 2 graduations and a graduation party. And actually, we've had 2 retirement parties that we had to go to this week. So, yeah, it's been an event. can't
right on,
can't wait for summer.
Same.
It slows down for us. So anyway, so thank you, Cody, for letting me hijack that. So let's get actually started into sports. Sorry for the folks who are listening to that. If you don't really care, you can skip it. It's fine. But I just want to give a shout out to all the people that I love. So, all right, let's get going, Cody. There was NBA playoffs, game 3, or sorry, NBA playoffs. Good God, NBA finals.
Correct.
And game 3 went to the Celtics. And a lot of people were picking the Celtics. I know I had texted you and I was like, I'm going to pick the Warriors. I didn't feel great about the pick, but I was like, I feel like everyone's going with the Celtics. And usually when that happens, the other team kind of like either gets really close to winning it or does win it.
Yeah.
So I was just going on a whim. If in the third quarter, it looked like they might, but unfortunately in the fourth quarter, they completely died. So, what did you take from game 3? I mean, what did it say to you?
Well, honestly, I felt like that the Celtics were going to defend home court. I felt like, especially the first game in the NBA Finals, they wanted to come out and make a statement. It was a pretty close game throughout the first half. Second half started. Obviously, the Warriors were down. They made a comeback. But the Celtics just, their defense, their rebounding, their size made a huge difference. For some reason, the Warriors' game plan that they used to beat the Celtics in game 2, it didn't work. But like I had texted you, I think what would happen is the Celtics role players would, play really well at home because they play well on in front of the home crowd. And Marcus Smart did really well. Al Horford had pretty quiet game, but he was really good, solid defensively. All the Celtics starters basically had at least 6+ rebounds, and that was a huge difference because Celtics out rebounded the Warriors. I think it was like 47-31. And like I said, man, like one of the scary things about the Celtics is they have a top 5 defense, but they can shoot like the Warriors, and they're really deep. And one of my concerns, and I texted you this, and you'll probably highlight this when you bring it up. But, Jordan Poole is so wishy-washy that sometimes he's really good. Game 2, he was great. Game 3, he wasn't as good, and really you didn't feel his presence. And he just has these performances where, you think he's going to do well, and then he disappears. And, it's unfortunate because they really could use that third scorer, especially with Wiggins using all of his energy on the defensive side to contain Tatum or Brown, whoever he is assigned to. So, my big takeaways are, Celtics defended home court. I do think the Warriors will probably bounce back in game 4, but I'm still rocking with Celtics in 7, unfortunately, for the reasons I've outlined. But, this does hurt me because I'm a Steph fan and I do want him to win these finals for legacy reasons. But, they have a tough up here battle, and, they got to make sure they don't go down 3-1 to the Celtics because they won't win down 3-1. That's for sure.
I'll start off by saying this. Was it a bad loss for the Warriors? I think it was. I think they had every opportunity to win the game. I think they could have won the game, but the fourth quarter, Wiggins, I saw a couple of threes that he took in the fourth quarter wide open. Absolutely wide open, completely whiffed on him.
Yeah.
Klay Thompson, obviously, we've talked about, he hasn't been consistent, even though he did have 25 points, so not awful, and he was getting to the free throw line. But I think that's where the Warriors are starting to kind of see their lack. Well, first, I think the Warriors, I'm looking at the minutes on the bench. It's not great. Jordan Poole and Otto Porter kind of highlight the bench, and the rest of the bench is 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and then you got Gary Payton, who's got 11 minutes. So which not huge minutes there. And Kevon Looney, he only played 17 minutes, and they played Jordan Poole and Porter Jr. a little bit more. And like you said, I mean, Poole has not been consistent. He hasn't been great. I mean, he's been great when the game is not on the line or they need a big bucket. He's just been kind of, playing his own game. So that's where he's going to have to grow next year. But I mean, I feel like Jordan Poole is a guy who you can still play. I feel like a lot of people are kind of like beating him down, but I feel like he is a guy who potentially could score a lot of points. I think you're going to have to still play him a little bit more. And I know the Warriors are probably scared of doing that, but at the same time, I think you get him some good experience, whether it goes great for you this year or possibly it'll be good for you next year. So I'm just not really happy with the bench the way it's been happening. And Steph Curry has been the only one who can hit a shot, it seems like. Wiggins needs to come up big, a lot bigger. Draymond Green, he even admitted on his podcast that it was probably one of the worst games he had in his entire career. So he doesn't expect him to do that. Jason Tatum had a pretty good game. I would say had a good fourth quarter. I wouldn't say game necessarily. And that's my worry with the Celtics is I feel like they've been able to kind of coast without Jason Tatum, but I do feel like as the games continue, they're gonna need Jason Tatum more. Now, maybe he'll be better because he kind of had rest in air quotes, but or I guess not used as much. But I do think he is going to have to step up a little bit more. I mean, but I got to say right now, I know Jaylen Brown has had a great series so far. He's been really good.
Yeah.
And I think he could potentially, if the Celtics end up winning this NBA Finals, I think he could potentially actually win NBA Finals MVP.
Yeah.
But I do think someone who should be talked about in MVP talks would be Robert Williams. He's been an absolute disruptor the Warriors are almost scared to go inside every time he's on defense.
Yeah.
I mean, he had a couple of huge blocks. I mean, we talked about the block that Jaylen Brown had on Klay Thompson.
Yeah.
And that was just like a game sealer type block. I mean, it was, I'm not saying it wasn't big, it was huge, but I just feel like Williams, everyone, like the Warriors are really scared to even try and attempt a shot that's around him. Which I think really bodes well for the Celtics. Now, the Warriors have these veteran guys that won't be scared to step up and still try and go inside. So I think they will. But these young guys like a Jordan Poole, as we've been talking about, or Andrew Wiggins even, I think is going to be a little bit tougher for them to go inside and still be confident in it. So that's a little worrisome for me, but in the end, I'm still going to stick with the Warriors. I think I still pick them in 7. A 2-1. Yes, you don't want to be down, but at the same time, it was the first home game in Boston in this series, so not something that was awful like to go. I mean, it wasn't something that the Warriors couldn't overcome, but I do feel like we knew going into this game that Boston, the Garden, was going to be absolutely rocking. And I was listening to the Bill Simmons podcast, and he was talking about how half of Boston was drunk before they even came into the arena, so it was already going to be rowdy. So I mean, we knew that going in, so I'm not super surprised that they lost. The way that they lost was a little, it wasn't great, but the Curry getting injured was a little scary for me, and that is something I'm definitely going to be watching. If you see him miss a few more shots than you're normally used to seeing, I think it's actually going to tell you that it is affecting him. And if that is the case, the series is over. It's going to be the Celtics. I will have no trouble admitting that. But if the injury wasn't that bad, which it didn't look like it was that bad, and there was a thing, a reporter commented saying that he looked a lot better walking today than he did yesterday. So that's a good sign. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, I have just one thing to mention regarding Steph potentially getting injured, and then I have a follow-up question for you regarding the finals. But my only thing is, this is the second incident with Boston where there's a loose ball, Steph Curry's involved, They go diving, they get on his lower leg or his ankle or something like that. I don't know if I'm in the NBA, I'm looking at maybe a rule change, and this is just what I'm bringing up because we're doing all these rule changes to protect the game. You know, you're not allowed to close in on the landing spot when a shooter is coming down, so that way you avoid injury. You know, you can't make a certain plays at the basket and it be flagrant. I think that when you go diving for a loose ball, I think it should be considered a flagrant if you go diving and you're landing in the area where like the opponent's legs are at. I just think like it's too dangerous for players to be aggressive, and yeah, they want to be hustle plays, and that's great and all, but I really don't think that a hustle play should involve you going to the lower leg and potentially twisting their ankle. You can blow their ACL, whatever else. I mean, this is again the second incident in a similar play where Curry got injured in the lower leg. Granted, it's not nearly as severe, but I mean, I just think it's a dangerous play if you have players diving and they're kind of going towards the lower leg, especially if a player is like on the ground and can't protect themselves. I mean, how many plays have we seen in the NFL where a lineman gets his legs caught, he can't move, and the pile's getting bigger, and what ends up happening? He blows his knee out or something. And the NBA is looking a little bit like that, especially when people are going in the pile. They're going for the ball, and there's all this movement and all these players going for it at the same time. It's bound to happen, and I think it's some dangerous circumstances that are coming up. I think the NBA should look into changing, but that's just my opinion on that.
Erroneous. No, don't get rid of that. No, I understand where you're coming from, but I don't understand how you would really regulate that, because I feel like a hustle play. I mean, I still do that. I mean, I play for fun, and half of us, if the ball is on the ground and a free for all, we'd all dive for it, and we're all. I mean, I'm probably one of the younger guys, but I mean, a lot of these guys are in their 40s, 50s, and they still would dive for the ball. So I don't know. For me, it's just as a competitor, as someone who likes competition, I just don't see how you would necessarily get rid of that, just because it is part of the game. Yes, it can be dangerous, of course, I understand that, but you kind of know that when you're diving. Like, it's not like, I mean, with the NFL, with the rules where you can barely touch the quarterback, I mean, God, I hate that. I hate it. I mean, it's great when it happens, when it's your team, when Carr, barely kind of gets touched on the arm at the end of the throw, and they're like, oh, that's roughing the passer, that's 15 years, which actually never happens because they never call it on Carr. But anyway, that's another story. But you know what I mean? Like, I think it is, even though you and I still watch football, I think when we see that play, it's kind of like, God, I wish they would just get rid of that rule. Like, it's really not that bad, and I think that's what we would look at in the NBA. I think after a while we'd be like, okay, they need to bring that back, because a flagrant one or a personal foul or something is just ridiculous for something like that. I know you're saying I think they should just at least look into it, and I understand where you're coming from. I don't see how you could necessarily regulate that. So.
Well, I mean, I get it, but there's also people were up in arms when, there's that closeout rule. We're like, well, then how are we supposed to play defense? And players have adjusted, and now it's a common foul, and it's an understood foul. I'm not saying to not
except when it happens to Steph Curry.
Sure. Yeah. I'm not ever saying to not make a hustle play or go for the ball. What I'm saying is if there's a player that's on the ground, like Steph Curry was in this certain position, and you go diving where his back is towards you and you're going to land on his legs, whereas you don't do that, in my opinion, that looks like more of a foul, just because now you're putting that player in a dangerous situation, rather than if a different player, or you maybe move yourself and go at it at a different angle to then make a better play for the loose ball. I'm more thinking of it as like, it's safer if you just train yourself to move over and then go for the hustle, rather than I'm just going to jump on top of this and start creating a dog pile. And then now all hell's going to break loose is what I'm referring to.
So essentially what you're trying to say is like when a guy goes up for a layup, okay, and the defender, if he basically stays up straight, usually they won't call it. But if his arms kind of full, well, if he goes up straight, or if he tries to like turn where he's like trying to avoid contact, then they won't usually call it. But if the guy kind of goes into him, kind of jumps into him, or he kind of brings his arms down a little bit, or swats a hand or something, then they will call it. That's kind of what you're saying is like, just. You can keep the dives, but you have to show that you're at least trying to go away from it.
I would make the incentive is if you're going to make a diving play, you can't dive in a dangerous way towards the opposing player. You have to make a concerted effort to, do it in a, I know it's hard to say in a safe manner, but I know athletes are smart enough and athletic enough to make a subtle change. We're not saying get rid of it. We're just saying don't dive at your opponent's knees because it's literally their livelihood, and God only knows what you're going to do if you go after their knees. So that's just my only thing. And I'm not saying to get rid of it or outlaw. I'm just saying look into that. Maybe make some sort of incentive that if that play continues to happen, then it's a foul or there's something that goes towards it, so that way it doesn't potentially injure somebody. Like imagine LeBron James getting his ACL torn because of a loose ball play, like what Steph went through. Can you imagine the uproar that would happen? I mean, that was LeBron James and he had a major injury off of that. It's a hustle play, but then you're going to look at, okay, this player dived literally for his legs going after the ball, but it was at his legs. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm thinking of.
I get what you're saying. I understand where you're coming from. I'm just, my point of view is I would be okay if they don't get rid of it. To me, it doesn't bother me as much, but I do understand the thought behind it. So,
all right. So my follow-up question is, what changes need to be made for your Warriors to win in 7?
Just more consistency. That's plain and simple. Klay Thompson needs to be more consistent. And I said Andrew Wiggins needs to be more consistent. Jordan Poole needs to be more. Basically everyone needs to hold their own weight. Because you and I had talked about this via text message. If Klay Thompson hits a couple of his shots, Andrew Wiggins hits a couple of his shots, Draymond Green doesn't foul out, and Jordan Poole hit a couple of shots, honestly, the Warriors could have easily won that game.
Yeah.
Like, I know, like, watching the game, you're kind of like, it didn't look like it was that close, but in the end, it was. And if they made a couple of their shots, they get to the line a little bit more, that could be a whole different ball game. The Warriors could have won game 1 if they would have been a little more consistent. So for me, I just think it's consistency, and I know it's simple and it's vague, but it's the truth. I feel like their defense hasn't been bad. Celtics have had a couple. Derek White had an amazing game 1. Tatum hasn't really been great. Except for fourth quarter of the last game, and Jaylen Brown has been Jaylen Brown. So, what can you do about that? But and then Horford had a great game 1 as well, and he hasn't really done much since. So, for me, I just think it's more consistency. And if the Warriors hit a few more of their shots, they're going to have a better chance of winning the game. So I'm not too worried as much as I think a lot of people have been panicking. If you're a Warriors fan or rooting for the Warriors, I don't think it's all that bad. I think it's just you need more consistency. And unfortunately, Klay is still trying to come back from a couple of injuries. So that's why it's hard for him to be consistent. But the other guys, I don't think they have an excuse. Sorry, I know I ended it as you were taking a swig. What about your Celtics? How did they finish off?
So I think the Celtics need to keep basically doing what they're doing with Draymond Green. The fact that Al Horford has the size advantage, in my opinion, I think he has a strength advantage as well. He looks like he's stronger than him. I would keep having Al Horford kind of exposing Draymond Green, and taking him out on the perimeter, opening up the defense. Just because the length and the size that the Celtics have is being a problem for the Warriors, I'd keep focusing on, taking out Jordan Poole. I'd keep making Andrew Wiggins work on defense because I really think that is affecting him on the offensive side. And, obviously you're not going to be able to stop Klay. It's a collective effort, but, you're not going to do it. So I would take away the people around him that are most effective. I think when Steve Kerr takes out Kayvon Looney for some reason, doesn't use the rest of his rotation, and he kind of goes with more of a tighter, 7-man rotation and wears everybody out. I don't know what difference the Celtics need to do other than, keep exposing Draymond on the defensive end, let him get in his own head, and, let him repeat what he did in game 3. Make Wiggins work, and then, make it difficult for Clay, to get a clean look, so that way he can't get in rhythm. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a recipe to close it out. And honestly, man, with how they're playing, if they keep up this, their defensive tenacity and being tough and physical, I wouldn't be surprised if Celtics close this out in 6, which I hate to say because I think the Warriors are better than that. But, if the Warriors can't find an answer for this defense, then, it's going to be, the series is going to end sooner than we think.
Yeah, I feel you on. Excuse me, sorry. I feel you on that. I do think that the way the Celtics have been playing, the way that Warriors have been playing, there is always a chance that it could be a little bit earlier. But I'm going to stick with my prediction, so I won't go back on it. All right, Cody. So you have a few questions, or I need to do my MLB power rankings first, right?
Let's get into your MLB power rankings right now, since I know you haven't done this in a couple of weeks. So
I know, and I feel bad because I've been wanting to do it every single week, and I kind of blanked on it. So I'm sorry, everyone who was not looking forward to it, but I'm doing it anyway.
Well, I'm surprised that I'm not surprised that it's gone this long without one. It's a long season, so I mean, I think you're forgiven on that. It's not like you need to do one every week, but I could have imagined some teams would have been, in and out of top 4 and 5, because that's essentially the only 2 positions that are changing right now. But let's go ahead and get into your top 5 and start it off. Where do you have everyone and why?
Well, I have the New York Yankees at 1. Obviously, best record in baseball right now. I thought this would cool off. Jameson Taillon almost had I want to say it was a perfect game. He had it through, 7 innings, I believe.
Was it a perfect game or a no-hitter?
It was a perfect game. And then I believe someone got a hit and ended it. But he's been surprisingly well. I mean, he used to pitch for Pittsburgh, and he always struggled with either command or, sometimes a little bit of control of his pitches. And so he walked a lot of guys, would leave pitches, down the middle. So home runs, hits were always kind of an issue for him. He comes to the Yankees, kind of always struggled with injuries as well, and he comes to the Yankees, and this year he's been absolutely lights out. I mean, Garrett Cole has been really good, but he hasn't even been the best pitcher for them. I think I would honestly say probably Jameson Taillon so far. Nestor Cortez had a phenomenal game as well in the last outing that he had. So the Yankees are really good. I'm actually very surprised, even with how bad Joey Gallo has been. The Yankees are really interesting. I thought their bullpen would kind of start struggling a little bit. They've still been going strong. Usually you start seeing bullpens, if they're not good, you start seeing them kind of tank a little bit going into late June. So we'll see. We still have, about 3 weeks left, but they're winning, and that's all you need to do right now.
Yeah.
Then I have the New York Mets. I have them over the Dodgers because they just recently won the series over the Dodgers. Listen, I've been very high on the Mets. They have kind of started slowing down a little bit, but I do still like their team a lot. They have obviously struggled with injuries. Jacob deGrom, who freaking knows what's going on with that? I mean, I was so excited to see him pitch. Thought he should have been back by now, and something else happened. And God, this guy just can't stay healthy, and he would just be lights out for the New York Mets, and they need him right now.
Yeah.
But
he must be hanging out with Steven Strasburg.
Yeah, I guess. If and when they get DeGrom back, this Mets team is already playing the way they're playing. They're going to be even more scary. So watch out in the NL East there. Then I have the Dodgers at 3. I mean, I don't really have much else to say other than this team is just completely loaded. When their pitching breaks down, their hitting steps up. When their hitting is breaking down, their pitching steps up. So they just have a great everything. I mean, their bullpen, I think, is their weakest point, and I don't think it's that bad. Mookie Betts has been phenomenal. I just saw him. They had a game against the White Sox, and he made a little diving catch that he made it look easy, and it's not easy at all. As someone who has played outfield, it's not easy to make that catch, and he made it look so. And he popped up like it was nothing. It was just like, God, I hate you, but I just respect how well you are, how good you are, man. It's just, dang it. So good for them. Then the San Diego Padres, they have still been going very strong. Manny Machado is looking like he should be the leader of the Padres. I know they want it to be Tatis, but this guy is, first, he's injured all the time. Secondly, he's still very young, so he's still learning the game. Manny Machado has been around for a while, and he's playing absolutely lights out. This Padres team, they just keep winning. They kind of started off a little slow. They were kind of struggling, but once he started getting hot, they started getting hot. So Padres, very scary team. They're going to be interesting going down the stretch. And then I have the Houston Astros. As much as I don't want to put the Astros on any kind of list other than frauds of World Series champions, but they've been playing really well. I mean, Jordan Alvarez is someone that isn't talked about enough. He is a big-time home run hitter, and he's a guy who can hit for average as well. He's got probably as much power as Aaron Judge. But I think Aaron Judge is more of a consistent hitter than Alvarez. But overall, this guy is really, really, really good. And then Kyle Tucker, he started off horrible this year. I mean, I think he was under the Mendoza line. But he just started raking. All of a sudden, he got hot, and he's just kept it up. He's been hitting so well. And then their starting rotation has been nothing but consistent. I mean, their starting rotation, they'll give up an average of 3 runs, but their lineup is good enough to get more than that, and their starting pitching just kind of keeps them in the game. Bullpen comes in, and the bullpen has done pretty well. So, Houston Astros, number 5.
They're probably going to be a little scarier too once Altuve, excuse me, and Alex Bregman, if they start hitting a little bit better, because they're both kind of struggling for some reason this late in the season. But we'll wait until after All-Star break. Maybe they can turn it around. But I mean, they could be closer to, being competitive with, the likes of the Dodgers, because they're always competitive. It seems like every year they start off slow, and then they pick it up sometime at the end of the year. So.
Yeah. Altuve's not hitting well. He's kind of in a slump. Bregman is. I don't know what's going on with him right now, but there's no trash cans, so that's probably why. There you
go. He is the trash can.
All right, that's all I got, man.
All right, right on, man. Well, hey, it's a pretty good list. I can't really say too much. I'm sure it'll change next week. So, anyways, we're gonna go right into Drew Take questions now. This is probably my favorite part of the show now, other than when we do the NFL record predicting now. So,
yeah.
All right, so we're going to stick with baseball for you, Drew, because I know you love it so much. So,
yes, sir.
Earlier this week, the Angels fired Joe Maddon after, at the time, they were losing 12 in a row. I think that they're at 14 now. I don't remember if they played or not today. But I'm just curious, did you agree with Joe Maddon getting fired by the Angels?
No, I don't. I think if you're a team is having some struggles, you need a manager who's been there, done that type of a deal. Yes, I know they're losing with him, but at the same time, he is a guy who has been proven. He is a guy who, can turn teams around. I think there's a lot of factors that has happened, but I don't know. I don't agree with it. I think it's too early for that. Yes, I understand it is a tremendous losing streak, something that you don't see a ton in baseball ever.
How many seasons was Maddon with the Angels?
I believe this was his third year, so he had 2 years and change.
Third year,
Yeah.
and they're already getting rid of him.
Yeah. So,
Wow.
and it's not like they were getting worse. I mean, they're just unfortunately losing games that they probably should win, of course. But
Mhm.
I don't think the losing streak really shows how well they've been playing. I mean, they're not like they lost to the Red Sox today as we're recording on Thursday.
Mhm.
Lost to the Red Sox 5-2. Otani pitched. I mean, it was a game that they could have. They were ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. They did win. They did win today. So they
Oh, okay.
ended
They
their
broke the
streak. I
streak.
read that wrong. Yeah. So
Okay.
the day before, excuse me, is what I was trying to look at. They were losing. They lost 1-0. They had 7 hits, but they had
Right.
2 errors, which allowed a run for the Red Sox, or gave them an opportunity for the run. So, to me, they weren't playing that bad. They weren't that bad. Um, I think maybe the organization thought it would, light a spark, but it's like you got to play the long game here. The
Yeah.
baseball is such a long season that you fire your coach,
Mhm.
and you're just thinking of it short term. Oh, right now it's going bad, but what happens when you know what happens when they need some big decisions to make, and this guy has no idea what to do because he hasn't been in those situations. That's
Yeah.
why it was so important to have Joe Madden, and it just goes to show you can have arguably the 2 best players in baseball, and you still not really be successful. So
Yeah.
that's how crazy baseball can be.
Well, I think they were trying to copy what the Phillies did with letting go of Joe Girardi, and the Phillies have won 4 out of 5, I think, since then, and
Yeah, we'll see how long that
Angels
lasts.
can't do the same thing. But anyways, okay, moving on. Second baseball question. So our Giants, Drew, traded for Austin Wins from
Fresno State.
that's right, and we sent down Joey Bart to AAA.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to ask the unfortunate question: do we need to start thinking if Joey Bart is a bust?
I wouldn't say bust. I won't go that far, but I do think it is a little worrisome that he couldn't really get it done. This was his opportunity. There's no Buster Posey. Literally, no one was in his way. Just had to hit. And if you look at his AAA numbers, and I understand it's AAA, but he was a consistent hitter. He had some pop, and he showed that in the majors that he had some pop, but he just kept striking out. And I would watch a lot of his at bats, and he would foul some pitches off, and he would hit them hard, make great contact, but was just too early or too late on him. But I think the other issue that you could run into if you're Joey Bart is Austin Wins. The way he came into the Giants, he got a hit, he got an RBI single. He threw a guy out trying to steal a bag.
Yeah.
And then Logan Webb was actually interviewed, and they asked him about Austin Wins, and he said that right away he told me he watched my last 3 starts, and he saw that I did this, and this right, and maybe change this up a little bit, and was just going super in depth, and he just met this guy.
Right.
So that could become an issue for Joey Bart. This guy is here to win this spot. And so if you're Joey Bart, you're really going to have to focus because this could be a potential. And I think Joey Bart still has potential. And I was hearing on a Giants podcast, they were talking about if you send him down to AAA, he may not be like a good trade piece anymore if you're going to try and trade him. I would disagree with that. I think a lot of people will still see the potential that he has. He just has to be a little more consistent. Some teams will believe that they can get that out of him, or that they're going to take a chance on him. And I do feel like that could be the case. But I do think we're going to see Joey Bart again. I don't think he's a bust. I do think he is a good player. I think he had a lot of pressure. You're coming in and you gotta cover for Buster Posey. Honestly, I think it would have been better if Buster Posey was here to help him learn a little bit more and gain that confidence. So unfortunately, he had to be sent down, and it was a move that needed to be made As much as I didn't want to see it happen, it needed to be made. So,
Yeah, I know that's a tough one for you, but it's got to be asked. I mean, he was a highly touted prospect for us,
yeah,
and it's just disheartening that he's not coming around. And like you said, AAA looks great, but when we need him, he's just not showing up, and that's what we need him
yeah,
for. So, all
yep.
right, so 2 more questions to go, Drew. So this week, there's been some NBA hot topics going on, notably length of the NBA regular season. So I am wanting to know, do you think the NBA should shorten the season or keep it the same? And if we shorten it, what's your proposed number of games that you would like to see?
I think they should shorten it. I just think that they try because they don't want to do the back-to-back games anymore, which I think was actually a benefit for how the season was viewed. Now that they're really not doing back-to-back games, I think that's why it seems so long.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they should shorten it up. I would say would probably be unpopular, but I would say like maybe go to like 70, 71. I would say 65. If I'm being truly honest, I would say 65 because first you want an odd number so that way you don't have it's harder to have
records.
these tie records and
Mm-hmm.
you got to figure out whatever. So I think 65. And I think 65 is good. That kind of shortens a lot of what the season is. It makes it a little more urgent of winning these games. And it's not going to be that long of a season if your team is 17 and 41.
Right.
Like you don't want to keep watching this crap over and over if your team is just completely out of it. So
Yeah.
I think they should shorten it. I would shorten it quite a bit because it creates urgency, as the guy I listen to, Colin Cowherd, always says. You create urgency, you create drama, which gets people to watch more. And I 100% agree. I think that's why NFL playoffs are so popular, because it's one game. That's why you have to watch it. That playoff game is on. You have to watch it. Whether I like the wild card game or not, I always thought maybe the wild card game for baseball in postseason should be 3 games. Whether I like it or not, it creates urgency. I want to watch those games because it's win and you're in.
Yeah.
And you lose, you're out. So urgency does really work in every sport, and so I think the NBA needs to do that. And this whole 3 days in between the NBA final games is ridiculous. They need to have one game like they had been doing all playoffs.
Right.
I think it's bogus. I know it creates
Well, I can
creates
solve
all
that
this.
problem. I can solve that 3-day problem. Have it at a neutral site, kind of like what they did with the bubble. Have it at a neutral site. Do it every other day, and it'll be done in a week. So
they'll never do that.
I know, but I'm just saying I solved it, but no one's gonna want. No one
no
likes
one's
the
ever
answer.
do it. Yeah.
So, anyways, okay. Well, then I think the follow up would be next time, not now. Would be at 65 games, and how do we judge today's NBA with back then when it was 82 in terms of records and stuff like that? So I think that's another rabbit hole to go down, but we'll table that for another time. All right, last one. This one has been kind of important, and it's actually kind of a serious one. I think you know where I'm getting at with it. We've been talking about it all week. So obviously, Deshaun Watson's had some a new allegation come out against him, another lawsuit. A New York Times report came out that about 66 women over a 17-month period basically were his masseuse at one point in time, and there have been multiple ones on the article that I mentioned where they all had similar stories about sexual misconduct, harassment done by Watson, allegedly, of course. So, Drew, I don't know how to lead into this, but what's your thoughts on the new allegations and how the NFL and the Browns are handling the situation as of today?
Well, first I'll answer the question that you had first, which was, oh shoot, I just totally lost what I was about to say. Well, I'll answer what you just asked then. How are they handling it? NFL's handling it horribly. This is dumb. I mean, I understand it's a civil suit, but 66. You got to be kidding me with this. You gotta be. You can't tell me that they did all their research and were like, well, we're still not sure. 66 women. You gotta be kidding me. How is this even still a story? How are we still talking about, is he going to be suspended or not? He should be suspended. This is dumb. He should be absolutely out of the league. I mean, you brought up a really good point, and I'm sure you'll bring it up again. The whole Trevor Bauer with MLB. MLB was like, no, thank you. You can go.
Right.
And he wasn't even convicted. So what is the NFL waiting for? What else do we need? There's no way in hell that in the beginning it was 25 women that we were talking about, you and I, and there's no way in hell that these 25 women all got together and like, well, we're just going to take his money. We're going to take his money.
Right.
And they all were able to have the same story. No, there's no way that happens. You're telling, the NFL is basically saying, you're lying. We believe that 25 women, now 66 women, are absolutely lying. That's what it says to me. And then the Browns, you were like, I don't think they could have just like glanced over it. Obviously they did, Cody, because this is ridiculous. It shouldn't be a story. He should be completely away from the game of football. We shouldn't even be talking about it. The Browns are dumb for even signing him. I mean, good Lord.
Right.
And my wife actually brought up she was saying something like, if 25 women were really coming together to try and get money, Deshaun Watson is not the person you're going to go after. There's other quarterbacks that have a little bit more money that you could really ring out. Aaron Rodgers. So, you know, there are other quarterbacks that you could have gone after. And at the time, he wasn't even paid yet.
Right.
So that's another thing. So it shouldn't be a story. This is absolutely disgusting. And I'm amazed. I'm amazed that we're still talking about it.
Yeah. So I'm just going to give my 2 cents, and I'll be very brief because I as I've told you, I can get on a soapbox about this because it bothers me a lot. But you know what I mean by the Browns not doing their due diligence, or, you know, I think they did. I'm saying that in a way that they knew and they chose to ignore it and still decide to give him $230 million. That's what I'm talking about. Like, you cannot tell me that all these NFL teams that have all their private investigators, all this money invested in a player, that they're not going to try to turn over every stone to see what's going on. I'm pretty certain that most NFL teams know more stuff that is behind the scenes of their players, if they have any baggage, than what they lead on to. And I'm saying that, you know, the Browns probably did do some homework on this. And I don't mean to say like, oh, they talked to so-and-so and they got a thumbs up, so it was all okay. I'm saying that they knew that this could potentially happen because this, you know, they have some inside people that could have given them some information. And they chose to ignore that still, is what I'm talking about. The Houston Texans, they basically enabled him to do this, where they were giving out NDAs and setting up these appointments, giving him a facility to go and get all this, you know, done. Basically is what the article outlines. So it bothers me a lot that it demonstrates that the NFL doesn't give a crap about females. They don't take this seriously. And it's a terrible look. And it's very, very frustrating because, you know, I have 2 daughters. You have a daughter. I know that you have, you know, several sisters. I have a sister. This is just a spit in the face to anybody that, you know, that has women in their lives that they value, just because it just shows that they don't care. So anyways, I'm going to get off my soapbox, but that's my thoughts about it. But that's the last Drew Take question I have for you. So I think we are ready for a break, Drew, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
All right. We'll be right back, you guys, and we'll be doing the AFC North Division record predictions. And I am so curious to see what you got, Drew. So when we come back, we'll be doing that. So stay tuned, guys.
I know you
And,
saw it, so it's okay.
no, it's all right. And we're back.
That's right. All right, Cody, we're gonna have to go through this a little quick here.
Okay.
But AFC North, sir. Last week we did the NFC North, and I believe we started 4 up.
Yep.
And we kind of alternated. I think we should do that again.
Okay.
So we're going to start with you, Cody.
right.
AFC North predictions. Well, I'll first off start off by saying this, that last year, I had it right up here now. Oh, there it is. Last year, the Baltimore Ravens were the 4th team in the division. They were 8-9, but 1-5 in the division. That's why they were last. Cleveland Browns were 8-9, but 3-3 in the division, so that's why they were 3rd. That's why they were over the Ravens. Then the Steelers went 9-7-1 and actually made the playoffs. And then the Cincinnati Bengals obviously made it to the Super Bowl, who had a record of 10-7. So, Cody, kick it off first. Who is number 4 in the division this year?
All right. This is a tough one. I'm going with the Bengals. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm not going with the Bengals. That's a little pun. Sorry. All right. So 4th place team I have is the Cleveland Brown. I think for obvious reasons. One, they're not having Baker Mayfield this season. Not that that is a bad thing, but they had a lot of turmoil. They're going to have a lot of distractions with the whole Deshaun Watson thing. They do not have OBJ. They do not have Jarvis Landry any longer. They do still have Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, but they did add Amari Cooper. Question is still like who's going to be the quarterback. I think if Case Keenum is still on there, Stefanski could make the Browns a competitive team with Keenum if he's still on the team. But I have the Browns finishing in 4th place at 6-11. The only notable games I have here is, I have them winning and losing majority of their division games. Couple of games I see them winning mainly are like Carolina, Atlanta, but I see them going on a losing streak basically from when they go to Baltimore all the way to when they go to Houston. I have them losing that entire stretch. That's about a 5-game losing streak. I have them on. I see them winning in Houston because that's Houston, losing their next couple of divisional opponents, and then finishing the year ultimately at 6-11. So that's where I have the the Browns in 4th place.
You keep saying the Bengals now.
I screwed myself over at the top.
I have the Steelers at number 4. I didn't think this offense was that talented to begin with. I mean, Najee Harris was a nice player. Johnson had a really good year, the receiver. And Claypool wasn't very consistent, obviously, Big Ben being gone now. But Mitchell Trubisky, I don't think makes the Steelers terrible. I don't think it was a bad signing. Or if they go with Kenny Pickett, whichever one they end up going with. But I just the games that they should win, I feel like they're going to win. I have them splitting games literally against every division or every team in this division. So win one, lose one against Bengals, and Cleveland and Baltimore. So I think that's a plus. I mean, they have a really good defense. I still love their defense, but I do feel like their secondary kind of can get beat a little bit too often. And like I said, Ben Roethlisberger had such a connection with Johnson and the tight end. I don't know if Trubisky will. I mean, Trubisky had some good receivers in Chicago, really couldn't do anything with them. So, that's my little worry about the Steelers. I think Harris is nice. I don't like their offensive line, to be honest. I think it's gotten worse and worse over the last couple of years. So that's a little worrisome for me as well. But, I think they beat, a Jets team. I think they beat a Saints team, the Falcons, the Panthers. I don't think those are hard games. But games that I was kind of in between, I just kind of gave to the other team, like the Patriots, obviously the Bills, Buccaneers. I like the Dolphins. I don't think that's a surprise that I have them beating the Steelers. Eagles, Colts, Raiders. I mean, I feel like that all makes sense that they would lose those games and the other games they would win. Plus or minus maybe a couple of losses, maybe in the division. It's possible they could have a better record, could have a worse record, but from what I was looking at, I just feel like a 7-10 record is what they're going to do. So do you want me to go number 3, or you want me to pass it to you?
I'll take on number 3, and then we'll alternate to start off the next number instead of going back to back. So right. I'll go with number 3 for me. I actually have the Steelers in third place at 8-9. So I'm a little higher on them just because I actually believe in their coaching staff, and with Brian Flores being, now on the coaching staff as well, with helping the defensive side of it and being assisted to excuse me. Holy crap.
Mike Tomlin.
Mike Tomlin. Holy cow. I was thinking of Tomlinson for some reason. Anyways, Mike Tomlin, he's never had a losing season. They got into the wild card at the end of last season by happenstance, thanks to the Raiders. I do think that, with Claypool, with Johnson, Harris, I think that they have a pretty good offensive unit. You're right. Their line is kind of worrisome, as if, like basically what their division rival Bengals were like last year, where it wasn't very dependable. But, I think that Trubisky could be serviceable. I'm not really sure how I feel about Kenny Pickett, though, if I'm being honest, even if he was the quarterback. So I'm not really sold on him. We'll see how it goes. I don't see him as like a huge gunslinger. I don't know if he's going to make this offense that much better until they get a better offensive line. But I do think that the coaching of Tomlin and of Brian Flores will help them get through the season. So I have them finishing 8-9. A couple of notable wins I do have is, majority division splits, of course, with their own rivals. I do actually have them beating Miami in Miami earlier in the season, just because, again, this is another topic, but, I think Miami has a lot of issues, and I think the Steelers are a more formed team and, are better equipped to handle them. But, I do see them losing to, obviously Tampa. I do see them losing to Philadelphia. I do see them, winning a game such as in New Orleans, who's actually an underrated team in my opinion. But, I don't think that this is enough for the Steelers to get into the playoffs or make another wild card, but I have them in third place at 8-9.
All right. I have the Browns at 3. So we just kind of swapped 3 and 4. I have them at 8-9. And the reason being, I figured Watson honestly wasn't going to play. This is actually me thinking Watson was going to play. I actually do feel like, and I told you this, I do feel like Mayfield could end up potentially still playing for the Browns. And if he does, I don't think this team is that bad. Even with Case Keenum, I still don't think they're as bad as what we would think they would. Yes, there could. I mean, obviously, there's going to be a lot of noise. There's going to be a lot of distractions. So it could be, as bad as like a 2-win season for the Browns, I think, potentially. But I think that defense is too good if you're the Browns. They did get Amari Cooper, who I do think is an upgrade over Jarvis Landry. I like Jarvis Landry, but I do think overall Amari Cooper is a better receiver in terms of, everything really. So, I like Amari Cooper. And then, Nick Chubb. I mean, he's still there. That offensive line is a little, they lost like a guy or two, but I mean, honestly, I still think that offensive line is still beastly. And I think they have a pretty solid team. I mean, the receivers, other than Amari Cooper, aren't fantastic. So that would be a little worrisome. But like we said, they signed David Njoku, still have Austin Hooper, so they have a pretty good tight end core as well. So I actually still like the Browns, even if it's Case Keenum, the quarterback. But I do think there is a real good chance that Mayfield could end up coming back. I saw a funny tweet that it was the Happy Gilmore scene where Happy comes back to Chubbs and is like, "I'm stupid, you're smart. I'm a loser, you're a winner." I was wrong. You were right. And he's like, okay. So and it was like the Cleveland Brown GM coming back to Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
So I still do think, because I had said, and I'm not going to go all the way into it, but I do feel like Baker Mayfield could save face a little bit, in the sense of, he has had a lot of controversial issues, and I feel like if he'd said, hey, I'm going to come back for one more year, but I'm gone after this year, I think a lot of people would respect that. And I think teams would notice that, hey, at least he didn't give up on his teammates. He still believed in this team, and he still believed in his players. I want a guy like that on my team, so he could potentially be signed by another team. So I think that would actually be, it would go a little bit further, where he wouldn't have to settle for a backup job. He could have a starting job next year as well. So I do think there is a big potential that he could come back. Who knows? I could be completely off, because we've seen him before where he's a little petty, and he could go that route. And you know what? He has every right to. But I'm just saying, in terms of long-term goal, I think it might be smart to stay with the Browns. So, but anyway, I have the Browns at 8-9. Not too crazy here, honestly. It's, games that they should lose, they lose. Games that they should win, they win. I think New Orleans and Washington are teams that they could end up winning or losing. Atlanta as well. And so I see a lot of anything can go in that situation. But ultimately, they face Atlanta in Atlanta. So I actually gave Atlanta the win. But the New Orleans game, I kind of gave it to the Saints, or I gave it to the Browns because it's in Cleveland. The Commanders, I mean, we saw Week 17 Carson Wentz last year, against the Raiders, and that didn't go well for him. So I just went with my gut and said I think it would be the Browns again. I think Wentz would choke again. So that's what I predicted.
Gotcha. All right. So for number 2 in the AFC North, I have the Baltimore Ravens finishing at 9-8. I'm not a big fan of their offense, if I'm being honest. They really don't have a receiver that comes to mind other than Bateman. I don't know who their number 2 guy is. They do have Mark Andrews, who's probably like top 3 or top 5 tight end in the NFL right now. He's very, very good, very underrated. Probably really their only major offensive weapon outside of Lamar Jackson that they do have. And it's not a slight against Lamar Jackson. I just think that the Ravens haven't done a good job at finding him some sort of receiving help, whether that's in free agency, whether that's through the draft. And then there's some question marks at their running back position. J.K. Dobbs could be coming back from his injury. Gus Edwards also could be coming back from the injury. We don't know how ready they'll be at the start of the season. Their defense is also obviously solid, but, if the offense can't stay on the field long enough to put pressure on the opposing defense, and if they turn the ball over, too many 3-and-outs, and then that, the Ravens defense goes back on the field and can get worn out and give up big plays. So I think the Ravens, like I mentioned, will finish second. They'll be 9-8. Harbaugh is a great coach. Lamar Jackson is a good player, of course. I just don't know what they're doing with their offense, and that kind of makes me a little nervous. So that's why I have them second place at 9-8.
I have the Bengals at 9-8. And I like what the Bengals have done, but I think it's a very real thing of the Super Bowl hangover, specifically with teams who have lost. They usually take a giant step back. I'm only having them lose one more game than they did last year, so I don't think it's that bad, but I do feel like their schedule is a little tough. They do face teams like the Bills, the Buccaneers, the Chiefs, obviously the Steelers, the Ravens, the Browns, I guess. But then, they face teams like, the Dolphins, who that could go up in the air. I feel like the Saints game could go up in the air for the Bengals. But I do see them, beating like a Cowboys team. They play the Jets, the Falcons, Panthers. I think those are all easy, winnable games for them. But like a Tennessee and New England, I think those are other games that could go either way. So I do feel like their schedule is kind of a little scary for me. I think their offensive line, they have upgraded somewhat, but I don't think it's as good because that offensive line was awful. Awful. And a Tennessee Titans team was absolutely dismantling that offensive line, and they don't even have that good of a pass rush. So to me, that was really, really scary. But I do feel like a second year with Jamar Chase. You know how I feel about second-year players. I think NFL teams figure guys out. Now, I think Jamar Chase is special. I don't think he's going to be completely shut down, but I do think he's going to have some struggles. And then Joe Mixon, he actually had a really good year. I expect him to have a little bit better of a year. But in term like Tyler Boyd, he wasn't used as much, so I'm a little concerned about him. I feel like he should be used a little bit more. That way you can kind of open up Jamar Chase a little bit more. So we'll see if they do that. But honestly, one of the big things that I have them is their defense. I'm actually not. Their defense played really well last year, but I'm not sold on what they've done this offseason. I don't think they really did much improving on the defense, in my opinion. And I just think their schedule, honestly, it's mainly their schedule that I feel like is really tough. They have a lot of games that, in Dallas, I think that could go either way. Even though I'm not very high on Dallas, I still think Dallas is a different place to play at, if you understand what I'm saying. New Orleans is absolutely crazy. Tennessee is an interesting place. At Tampa, at New England. Those are really tough games. Yeah, they see the Buffalo at home, but I think Buffalo is one of those teams that could literally win on any field. Right. So I just think they're running into a tough schedule. And if history does repeat itself, teams who lose the Super Bowl really have a hard time the next year. So,
wow, I got to be honest, man. I'm shocked. I did not think that you had them in a worse record than they did last year. Granted, it's one game, but in my opinion, that's a big step back in terms of what they just did. But I'll wrap my end up by saying that I have them finishing the division obviously at number 1. I have their record at being a 12-5. I know that you mentioned that you didn't feel like that they addressed the offensive line very much. So I know that at the start of free agency, they signed a guard and Alex Kappa. They also signed offensive lineman Ted Karse. And they did also sign offensive tackle Lionel Collins, who was with the Cowboys. And he was rated basically the number 1 tackle that was available when the Cowboys cut him and the Bengals got him. They just added depth and the number 1 tackle in the league. In my opinion, like that basically fixed what their issues was. It kept everyone else intact. Even signing Eli Apple, which no offense, but Eli Apple is a serviceable defensive back at best. He's not elite, so let's not get that twisted. But the Bengals defense throughout last season was a pretty tenacious defense, but they were subpar. I mean, when they had to get stops, they got stops. They were able to get pressure to the quarterback. They weren't elite. When they needed a big play, they made a big play, but they also didn't lose any major players, in my opinion. But they did add some offensive linemen that they desperately needed. Joe Burrow now comes back, not injured, with a full offseason. Zach Taylor basically is an offensive-minded coach, which your guy, Colin Cowherd, says that when you have a great quarterback, an offensive-minded head coach, things really go well for you. I think that Jamar Chase, you're right. They do have tape on him, but that didn't stop Justin Jefferson from having another breakout year in his second year. And I think Jamar Chase will continue to have a really good year. They still have T. Higgins. Tyler Boyd, is he going to be more incorporated with the offense? He might be. Maybe it's a scheme thing. Maybe it's, maybe it's just a coverage thing as well. And Joe Mixon now behind this improved offensive line, I think makes him even more serviceable and even better. So in my opinion, I think the Bengals have improved tremendously, and I have them finishing at 12-5. I know that you mentioned in their schedule. I am not afraid of them going to Dallas and beating Dallas. I think that's an easily winnable game. I think Miami, they can beat Miami. I think that they can go into Baltimore and beat Baltimore because, again, I don't know what Baltimore is doing with their offense, and I don't know if Baltimore has enough defensive weapons to keep up with the Bengals. I do have the Bengals beating Tennessee. I don't like Tennessee's offense. We'll talk about that when we get to their division. That I have Bengals defeating them. Really, the only teams I see the Bengals losing to are, the Saints, splitting a game with Pittsburgh, losing at Pittsburgh, losing to KC, losing to Tampa, losing to Buffalo. Like, those are games I expect them to lose because they're good, but maybe they're not at that level yet. But I definitely think that they are better than majority of their schedule. So that's why I've got them 12-5.
I have the Ravens 1 at 12-5.
Wow.
I know you don't like their offense, but when Lamar Jackson is not trying to force the ball to Hollywood Brown, who they got rid of, they gave him to Arizona, he plays better. When Mark Andrews is the focal point, they play better. When Lamar Jackson is just loosey-goosey in the offense where he can go literally anywhere, doesn't have to worry about trying to get this receiver his catches, this other receiver his yards. He has to get a touchdown here. He plays so much better. And I think that is the reason why they got rid of Hollywood Brown. And I know this is going to be crazy to you, but I love their defense. And the reason I say that is this. We forget that all of their secondary was hurt last year.
Mm-hmm.
Their main 2-3 running backs were hurt last year. Baltimore had nothing but injuries last year. Everyone is coming back, and they're going to be healthy. This Baltimore, I know Lamar Jackson right now is kind of on like trying to get that contract extension and whatnot. I'm sure Baltimore is like, yeah, we're definitely going to do that. This guy, all he does is win. Last year, they had a rough go, and they still made it to an 8-9 record, which I think is quite impressive with what they had been going through and the division that they were in with the Cleveland Browns team, who a lot of people thought were definitely getting in the playoffs. Obviously, the Cincinnati Bengals, who got into the Super Bowl, and Pittsburgh, who were on their last leg, yet still got to the playoffs. Mm-hmm. So I think this Baltimore Ravens team is way better than what you're thinking it is, because I think they dealt with a lot of adversity last year, and I felt like they were actually pretty decent last year for what they had to overcome. I love Lamar Jackson. I think he's a tremendous quarterback. I think he doesn't get his people don't pay his dues because he has an awkward throwing motion. But listen, it's been working. Mm-hmm. And you know what? He's ridiculously fast. He's ridiculously athletic, and he can make any throw on the field that you need him to. Now, of course, I understand his playoff record, yada, yada, yada. Luckily, we're not talking about playoffs. We're talking about regular season. Mm-hmm. I love Lamar Jackson, and then you add his running backs that are coming back, specifically Dobbins, who I love coming out of college. He was really good when he was playing, but like I said, he got hurt. And then you bring back Gus Edwards, who was a nice change of pace for the Ravens. This is going to be a tough Ravens team. I like this Ravens team a lot. I liked them last year, of course. Couldn't predict injuries, so I don't feel bad about having them at number 1. And plus, their schedule is they're facing teams like the Jets, the Dolphins, which you're not high on. I'm very high on, but I can see the Ravens completely pressuring Tua and making that game hard. I'm not actually that excited about the Patriots this year. The Bills game, of course, that's going to be a tough one. But then they face like Giants, Carolina, New Orleans, Jacksonville, Atlanta. I have them losing game, obviously splitting games with the whole division. But I have them losing to Tampa Bay and Denver. And I would say the Bills, but I think in Baltimore, I think they actually have a really good chance of beating the Bills. But I would be okay if you said there's no way. That's fine. If you want to give them 11-6 instead of 12-5, I don't really have a problem with that. But either way, I have them winning the division because I think this team is actually that good.
So you mentioned that we get one amendment per division, right?
Yes.
Okay, stick this one in your back pocket. I think you're going to need it. I just looked at the Ravens roster. I'm not saying anything that their defense isn't great, and this is no slander to Lamar Jackson. I think he deserves big money. He is a great player. I agree that he's a very underrated passer. He gets knocked a lot because maybe it's an awkward delivery, but he's a winner. Like I don't know how else to stress that.
Mm-hmm.
Who else is he throwing the ball to, though? Who else? I mean, name me another receiver on his team off the top of your head other than Bateman, and Andrews doesn't count because Andrews is basically an all-pro on that team. He doesn't have
Andrews
any other
doesn't
weapons.
count, but he's an all-pro.
Well, no,
Yeah.
I mean, no.
That's
okay, so he's another notable receiver, sure, but he plays tight end. So who else is Lamar going to throw the ball to? Who else is he spreading it to?
But that's my point. Is he was throwing to Sammy Watkins and Hollywood Brown. Hollywood Brown is not a number one receiver. Sammy Watkins isn't even a number two receiver. Sammy Watkins is now playing for who? The Packers now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're gonna.
And he's going to be their number one. So
then
this is what I'm saying is he has not had these top tier receivers other than Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews is his safety net. Great. That's no problem. The other receivers, they haven't done much with him because he has to force the ball to Hollywood Brown every single time because he's supposedly their number one receiver. Now, he literally has no ego at receiver. He can go to anyone he wants to at any time. Plus, he's getting his running game back.
Okay. I guess this is where I have a hard time with the receiving core because, yes, they don't have Hollywood Brown and Sammy Watkins, but who they have now, it's not like it's an upgrade. And I get it, they're no-namers, but
no, I get that. I understand that.
Then what I'm saying then is if they don't have any other like named players or other weapons, then I then expect them to be maybe 500 or not 500, flip a coin for it because they don't have any offensive weapons that are going to threaten any other team because if it's a run game style offense, then they're just going to play contain, and these receivers aren't going to be able to make a play on the ball when it's thrown to them. No matter what Lamar Jackson does, he can put it literally in their hands, and if they can't come up with it because they're not experienced, then what are we talking about here? But I guess, man, it's not Lamar, it's not the defense, it's the rest of the pieces around him that I just don't trust. I just don't see it. So
I just feel like that the Ravens have never had this gaudy receiving core, and they still make it work because they're mainly a running team. And I think they're just telling everyone, listen, we're going to run, but we do believe in Lamar Jackson that much. And I do as well. I don't think they're completely off their rocker for thinking that. I think this is an actually really good team, and like I said, there's no ego that you have to worry about now. You don't have to worry about Rashard Bateman. Even if he is talking, it's really not going to be that big of a deal because no one's going to want to listen to Rashard Bateman. So I think it's actually a blessing in disguise. I've seen it time and time again with quarterbacks and receivers constantly about when they get freedom to throw to whoever they want to, it actually usually works out a lot better for them. So
I sure hope so, man, because I don't see it. But hey,
that's fine. If I'm wrong, then you get to say that I was wrong.
I can't wait.
But I think you're really underselling how good this team is.
We'll see.
In my opinion.
All right, that's fine.
All right. Well, that's all we got, man. That's it. That's all we had. So thank you guys so much for listening. Yes, you're well. Hopefully you're watching this on YouTube, but if you're not and you're listening on podcast, we appreciate that as well, of course. I'm more of the podcast guy. Cody likes the YouTube stuff. I like the radio side because I don't have that pretty of a face. So, when I have to watch the videos so I know what I look like and what I'm saying and, how I can get better. And I hate watching it every single time. I hate it. I'm always like, oh God, I got a double chin this time. Oh, you can see the chocolate that I had before I went on. So I critique myself so much. But we appreciate you guys listening. However you're listening, thank you so much. It is such a huge um, awesome and huge thing that you guys do for us to just take time out of your day, whether it's like a minute or two and you guys listen to barely that much. It means a whole lot to us. So we appreciate that so much. Like I said at the top of the show, go listen to the podcast, which is going to be on the major podcast, which is Spotify, Apple, and iHeart. So subscribe, rate, and review. 1 star, let us know what we're doing wrong that you don't like so we can change it. If it's a 5-star, let us know what you love. That way we can continue to do it. Social medias, which is we're on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all that jazz, which is all going to be Drew Code Sports Talk. Or some variation of that. You'll see it in the description, so I'm not going to go any further in that because I don't want to. But also, we are going to be doing NFC South next week, and I know Cody, you'll probably touch on this a little bit. I think you and I will fight about that one because you said you like the Saints. I don't think I'm as high on the Saints as I don't know. We'll have to see. I'm not gonna ask you what it is, but I think that one will be kind of interesting to talk about as well. But so go listen to next week's as well. And if you haven't heard, last week we talked about the NFC North. I mean, I don't think it was really anything surprising other than you and I had 3 and 4 different. That was about it. So go check it out, though. We talk about the Aaron Rodgers situation a little bit, and I think that was pretty good discussion. So go check it out. And then check out our partners over at fnxfitness.com, which you can get a 15% off of your whole purchase by using our promo code, which is in the link description. And if you're watching this on YouTube, it'll be obviously underneath your screen, so go check that out. They are great partners of ours. They have great workout gear, great workout supplements. That's probably my favorite protein shake I've ever had. So go check them out if you're into the fitness regime. So I'm going to pass it to Cody where he will finish it and tell you about some things we have coming up.
Thank you, Drew. All right, guys. So again, as Drew had mentioned, don't forget to follow us, subscribe to us, like, share, comment, all that good stuff. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Also, subscribe, download the podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel. I am actually a huge podcaster, so I just will say that I dabble in YouTube and in podcasting. We are all over, so feel free to listen or watch us wherever you guys are at. I did want to say, though, that we will be doing a fantasy football league this year. So we want you guys to be in our league. I'm actually just about done with making the logo for the league. So, Drew, I haven't sent that to you yet, but I was working on it today. So I'll have to send that over to you. But we will be having a league this year. So what we want to do is we want to have a live stream draft with, the other 10 teams and want to be able to brag about it, want to be able to interact with you guys. The only question we want to know is if we want to do it on ESPN or on NFL.com. Those are pretty much the two popular ones. So if you guys are interested in joining our fantasy football league, DM us or shoot us an email at drewcodesportstalk@gmail.com. And we'd love to send out invites and get to know you guys, have you guys in the league, have some great time. And as we get more participants, we'll be rolling out more information about what will be in the league. It's not monetary quite yet just because we're broke. So, we just do this for fun. But, we're thinking of some fun prizes, some merch and something like that. So we're working out details still. But if you guys are interested, again, DM us, email us. We'd love to be able to do our league with you guys and then, make it an annual thing and have lots of fun and get to meet you guys. So I think that's pretty much it. Like Drew said, we will be doing the NFC South next week, which should be a ton of fun as it always is. And we'll probably be recapping again the NBA Finals as we always do. If you guys want to interact with us, find us on social. And we'll see you guys next week. Drew, man, Thanks for being here, and I'll probably talk to you in the morning on Polo. So.
Thought you were going to say drug-free. Stay drug-free. I honest to God thought you were going to say it.
Well, I can probably end it on that too.
I know you will.
All right,
you
kids,
will, but
stay drug-free. It's the way to be. Be a hero, which means you got to be drug zero.
It's an inside joke, folks.
It is. All right, guys. Have a good one.
See ya.